Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode number 25 and be with me in the book of First Timothy. Today, I'm going to say, titled today something like "A teacher with a love of money is going to be a disaster." So I'm going to start with the conclusion today, which is, don't follow teachers who associate godliness with profit and gain. That's today's caution. Tomorrow's caution is going to be, don't be a person who associates godliness with profit or gain. This is from a passage in 1 Timothy chapter 6, and it couldn't be stronger. It's about the love of money. It's about a person who loves money. That's the second part of it. And it's about a teacher, a pastor, an elder who loves money. And obviously the teaching points is don't be that person and don't follow that person. Why? Because this is a recipe for financial disaster. It's described as a temptation, a snare, plunging into ruin, destruction, and even spiritual consequences, wandering away from the faith. So let's humbly look at this passage about teachers and about money and about us. It's going to really come home to the civilian population here tomorrow. We'll find that the love of money is a dangerous thing in anyone, especially in teachers and in ourselves. Here it is. This is from 1 Timothy chapter 6, starting in verse 3. It's going to talk about the teachers first. If anyone teaches a different doctrine and does not agree with the sound words of our Lord Jesus Christ and the teaching that accords with godliness, he, the teacher, is puffed up with conceit, pride, and understands nothing. He has an unhealthy craving for controversy and for quarrels about words, which produce envy, dissension, slander, evil suspicion, and constant friction among people who are depraved in mind and deprived of the truth, imagining that godliness is a means of gain. Now there is great gain in godliness with contentment, for we brought nothing into the world and we can take nothing out of the world. But if we have food and clothing, with these we will be content. But those who desire to be rich will fall into temptation, into a snare, into many senseless and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. Verse 10, for the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. For it is through this craving that some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many pangs. Wow. All right, so earlier we looked at the context of 1 Timothy, which talks a lot about elders and the qualifications of elders. And one of them is that they should be good teachers. Well, the downfall of teachers is one of three things typically. One is pride, second is power, and the third one is profit. And that's the one we're going to talk primarily about today, but we'll kind of go through them all. So this passage is in the context of 1 Timothy, which is to charge certain persons not to teach any different doctrine. So it's a book. The whole book is about teaching pure doctrine. That's from chapter 1, verse 3. And then verse 18 warns that by rejecting the faith, some have made a shipwreck. And today we're going to find out that there's actually like a financial shipwreck. So a particular enemy in Ephesus, the city of Ephesus, was wealth. And it's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful city if you go there today, 2,000 years after it was even more beautiful city. So it was a cosmopolitan city. It was a port city on the Mediterranean, and it was rich with trade. So you can see that people kind of had their dollar signs in their eyeballs. And the problem here is if you attach Christianity with profit and money and worldly gain. So this is an example of an early version of the prosperity gospel. So rather than the association with Jesus leading to godliness, the emphasis and the priority is that having Jesus leads to money. All right, so there's three risks in teachers that are doing something like this. One risk in a teacher is that he is puffed up with conceit. That means he's blinded and deluded. It almost means that he's crazy. So not only is his head puffed up, but his head's in the clouds. I love one of my favorite verses from Psalms is Psalm 10:4. And it talks, in his pride, the wicked does not seek him. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. So pride equals ego, ego, which stands for easing God out, I've heard. And the other risk in a teacher is that knowledge puffs up, but loves build up. So the second risk in a teacher person is power. And here we have an unhealthy craving. That is, he wants something he shouldn't want. He desires something in an unhealthy manner, a morbid desire, being sick with this. And the craving here is for controversy and quarrels, and it produces something in your congregation. So if you kind of run down this money road, you're going to end up with envy of one person envying another, probably in relationship to economic status. There's dissension rather than unity. There's slander rather than, good use of the tongue, evil suspicions, constant friction among people who are depraved in mind. So bad teachers are going to produce bad congregation, particularly in this. And then the final risk is profit. So this is the teacher. And we asked a couple days ago, is there any good that comes from a teacher with a jet? So imagining that godliness is a means of gain, and it's supposing that there's a connection here, and assuming a link that being a Christian and believing the Lord leads to riches, and attaching the Lord to wealth. It's a means. So it's kind of an equation that more faith equals more money, and the love of money surpasses the love of God. So the priority is money, not the relationship with God. So today's caution is, don't follow teachers that associate godliness with profit, that associate godliness with gain. Tomorrow's caution will be, don't be that person who associates godliness with profit and godliness with gain. The risks here are very high. The cautions could not be stated more strongly. This can be a snare, a temptation, plunging yourself into ruin, ending in destruction, a root of all kinds of evil, and piercing yourself. So don't do this. Don't follow people that think that godliness is a means of gain. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow.